Who's my puffers?
It's a rough day for everybody in the Cobraverse, and I think we should take a moment of silence for our lost brethren. So, in case you're unaware, Puff, the bearded dragon that Josh was allegedly taking care of, disappeared, allegedly. We'll go into the likelihood of everything in this entire story, because Josh's story doesn't make a ton of sense. The bearded dragon is just missing, just out of nowhere, and he posted it on Facebook, and in this video he really just doesn't seem to have a lot of emotion tied up into it. And it's not that surprising. I think Josh has proven to himself time and time again that he's not overly emotional when he should be at times. He's overly emotional towards the trolls a lot, but in terms of like how he deals with his dad or how he deals with his pet or his friends, he's just kind of cold-hearted at times. And it's no different here. Whether it be the first time that his buddy, the homeless guy, gave him this pet, or when he was making out with Puff and probably giving himself a million different bacterial diseases. Who knows? I mean, the end is not in sight, to say the least. But Josh is still banned from YouTube. He made this post on Facebook talking about where Puff went, how upset he is, and we're going to examine all of it. So let's get into it.
What up, Facebook, social media? Puff has been missing for 5 days. We've been looking for him nonstop. I've been putting reports out, just spreading the word, doing what I can to look for him. And I still haven't found him yet. Now, I took 2 of these kratom pills just a second ago, so something to help with the stress. Because right now my depression is through the roof.
It's through the rough, guys. It's through the rough. And I'm from an area that also speaks in lingo like turlet and rough. And I get made fun of it plenty of times. I don't say rough, I say roof, but that's besides the point. Who cares? We're moving past that. Joshy boy here is trying to go comatose, trying to alleviate all the pains he has in his life. And Josh, I don't get it. Your pet lizard has been missing for 5 days, right? It doesn't make a ton of sense to me as to where this guy could have gone. And I think we can start to examine the likelihood of where these things lead to. One way or another, Josh is at fault for the disappearance of the animal. The 0.1% chance that somehow this thing is still alive, it's still Josh's fault. But in all likelihood, what probably happened is he either got really drunk or really high, went into his cage. We saw the state of the cage for the longest time. I mean, he never really cleaned it. He was constantly putting in new food, new particulates, just like a bunch of random crap in there all the time. And the cage was too small for the lizard. And there was even that clip, and I won't show it, but there was even that clip where Puff was standing in his water bowl, and he had 2 severe twitches back to back that looked like, man, is he having a mini seizure in there? Is he really that stressed out from the environment he's in that he's panicking and freaking out? Probably. I mean, he wasn't living the best life. So there's a chance I could see that Josh neglected him so much that he just died from that fact, whether it be the stress induced or maybe his environment caused him to die. I really don't know. I'm not a lizard expert over here. I had a lizard growing up and I did okay taking care of it. I could have been better taking care of it, so I can relate a little bit. The difference was I got my lizard when I was in 1st grade. And his lifespan was only supposed to be 5 years, and I think he lived 4 years or so, so it was a little bit less, and it was probably partially because of some factors that Josh sort of falls into, and that's on me, but I've learned and moved past it, and Josh obviously hasn't, and I think it's a red flag when anybody who can't take care of themselves tries to take care of another living being, you know, and there's certain circumstances that you could sort of understand it, but you know, that's why you know, homeless people use animals a lot of the time to try and garner sympathy. And it's a two-edged sword, because it's like, well, there's some people out there that have dogs because they ended up with the dogs, and there's other ones that get them in order to try and make their begging last longer, etc., etc. And it just, like, it makes you feel bad for the animal a lot more than the person, because the animal can't really choose where they end up, right? For the most part, they're chosen by somebody, and it's the hope to God that that person that they're chosen by is actually a good owner. And obviously, we've seen Josh's environment. There's no way. We all knew that this day was going to come. I actually sort of thought it would take a little bit longer than this. I mean, this was what, 9 months or something like that? 6 months? It was somewhere in that range. It was this year. So it's really disheartening.
I love him. He's my favorite lizard. And I've done everything in my power to look for him, and still he hasn't turned up. Now, the websites I've been getting my expert research from have said, and I quote, that if Puff doesn't show back up in the next 11 days, then it might be time to panic. He's been gone for 5 days now.
So we're 5 days into it. He claims that 11 days in is when that's the point of no return, which doesn't make any sense to me, because my understanding for people, if people go missing, you know, there's that show 48 hours. That's supposed to be the time frame. Within 2 days is your only real chance of finding that person. Otherwise, you presume that they're dead, or they're never going to show up in some capacity, because the longer time goes on, the less likely that, you know, something is going to turn out positive, especially in this circumstance. Because Josh talked about how he's going out in the yard and using a rake to try and find them. And I don't want to question the intelligence of a bearded dragon. I know for reptiles, they're extremely smart, and they can be compassionate, and they can recognize their owner and their environment and all that. But let's say he escaped the apartment somehow. How in the world would he figure out how to get back inside the apartment or come back to where he is? Because these lizards grew up in the outback of Australia. So they're used to like dirt and sand and rocks and sun. They're not used to snow and grass and roads and people. You know, that's not their natural environment. So if he somehow got outside into the yard, he's dead. That's a fact. If he somehow, my assumption, here's my assumption with what I think happened. I think either Josh inadvertently killed him in some way, stepped on him, gave him something he shouldn't have had and killed him, or he died inside of his cage. Or I know Josh took him out of his cage semi-frequently to just like run around for whatever reason. I know that it is a good enrichment thing for these types of animals, including birds, is to not keep them in a cage all day and let them interact with you and interact with their outside environment. But my idea would be Josh was probably sitting in his chair drinking, took Puff out, put him on his bed or something, and Puff maybe fell off the bed or scurried into some area that Josh isn't going to look in and just died. Because I know that I don't know about lizards or bearded dragons in particular, but I know that there are certain species of animal, like my cat for instance, when she was really old and was about to die, she wanted to get as far away from people as possible, because I guess in like pack culture, the dead rotting carcass of an animal is bad for the group because it alerts other animals in the area to where they are. So it could be something like that. I don't know. I don't think bearded dragons are pack animals, so I don't really know. I could just be speaking out of my ass, but I'm just spitballing here. It wouldn't surprise me if Puff was sick and Josh took him out and he thought he was going to die, so he went to go hide somewhere and die. That wouldn't surprise me. It also wouldn't surprise me if he somehow while he was out, crawled into some crevice or wall and just is like dead there. That wouldn't surprise me. I mean, the entire apartment, I'm sure, the documentary said that it doesn't smell that bad there, but I can't believe that's true. And I feel like a dying, rotting carcass of Puff would not be the first smell that Josh would smell inside of his apartment. So we'll just have to wait and see. I feel like we're never going to see him unless he turns up on the hilt of a wand or inside some mead someday.
I've stuck up missing flyers at my apartments, or the ones that I live at, and I spent like the last 5 days combing through the grass looking for him. My dad has practically helped. My mom has helped. My sister Tiana is helping, and people keep asking me about Puff. Where is he at? Where is he at? Where is he at? I don't fucking know, dude. I love Puff to death, and if I lose him, I'm never going to be happy in life again. Now, about 2 days ago, I lost this cup, and then I found it, so I'm confident that I'll find Puff again.
What does it mean to presumably help somebody? Can somebody fill me in? Maybe I'm unaware of that lingo. How do you presumably help search for a lost pet? That doesn't make a lot of sense. The likelihood is he probably texted his dad, and his dad texted back, big ups, Josh. I'm looking out for you. I hope you find the animal." And Josh interpreted that as, yeah, he's helping me out. He's helping me find him. And in all likelihood, I feel like there's a chance that Puff is in the garbage can waiting to be taken out to the dump. That's my guess. Or maybe he's in that box sitting in the corner of the room right next to him. That's my guess. I think he's trying to deflect the neglect that he actually partook in. And in turn, he's trying to spin some new story. And at the same time, the story about the cup. I lost this cup for 2 days, and guess what, YouTube? I found it. And you know what? That means I'm going to find Puff. Well, guess what, Josh? A cup cannot move on its own. It's going to stay there until you stumble upon it once again. Also, you live in a 2-room apartment. How in the world could you not find a cup in like 2 days if you were actually searching for it? That doesn't make any sense. Puff, I'm sorry to say, is probably very, very, very long gone.
We've been having unusually warm weather for this time of year for Casper, so I'm not complaining about that. Now, with bearded dragons, when it's cold outside, they will find a place and they will bury themselves underground. Now, tomorrow I'm going to be filtering the wine into a clean jar. It should be done fermenting with the fruit in it. But I'm not worried about that right now. I checked on my wine. It's looking good. Looking like it's ready to be drank on Ozzy Osbourne's birthday next month. But I'm not worried about that right now, man.
He's not worried about that, guys. He's not worried about it. But he did find his cup that he drinks his mead with first. He did do that. And he's also fantasizing about the wine he's going to concoct here pretty soon. But he's not concerned about that right now. He's concerned about Puff burying himself deep underground, probably in the mines of Moria somewhere, and he's got to go find him. The Boglum Wizard. He has to run down into the mines and fight the trolls and hold off the fire thing. I'm sorry, I've seen Lord of the Rings. I don't know the whole lore. Sue me. I know it's gonna get under some people's skins, but either way, Puff is not outside burying himself. As I said, they're used to like a desert arid climate, and that's not what Casper is. So, Josh, you gotta lose some hope at this point.
And I could tell Puff loved me because one time when I was standing in the kitchen bitching to myself, Puff came walking into the kitchen to check on me. Make sure I was doing okay. Puff brought out something in me that was good for me, you know? My temper's gotten better. as a result of having him. So in a lot of ways, Puff is really good for me. So if I lose Puff, I'm going to be so devastated, Facebook. And you can't just replace him with another bearded dragon, dude. You really can't. Puff was one of a kind.
So part of the problem is Josh, every once in a while, is speaking in like the past tense. Puff was a good pet. I can't look to get some new bearded dragon because of who Puff was, stuff like that. And it could just be the way that he's speaking, because maybe deep down he assumes he's dead, even though it's more than likely he saw that he's dead. But we won't delve too deep into it. But the fact that he claims that there's a story where for some reason he just took Puff out of his cage and let him roam around somewhere, and Josh was having some spurg out in the kitchen yelling at himself, and Puff came in and cheered him up. Alright, well, I understand, and I've stated it before, I know bearded dragons are pretty smart, and they're caring for their owners, and they can form a bond between the two. I don't think that Puff was like a dog that could come in and comfort you in that way. I think Josh probably spilled something all over himself or fell on the floor, threw up in the kitchen, and Puff, out of curiosity, wandered in there. I don't know why, I just keep envisioning Puff wearing a tuxedo, coming in and saying, how can I help you, Sir Josh? What can I assist with you? And this was probably some sort of, inhalant coma that Josh was in. He was probably doing some huff, and this was just some imagination that he conjured up.
Metro would have been more quick to respond to my missing Puff if my fucking asshole YouTube trolls hadn't harassed them. And there's nothing you can do about it. Pets run away. It's what they do. They're animals. They're instincts.
Give me, I've had several pets in my life, and very rarely have I had my own pets want to run away from our house. It's not necessarily in their instinct to decide to run away. Now, there are certain cases, I know I have friends and family that have certain types of dogs. They're a bit more skittish, and so whenever they see an open door or something, they'll just run out there. And then they're kind of dumb and don't realize what they're doing until a little bit later, but they end up back home eventually. I don't think it's very common for everybody's pets to just seek to escape. That's what domestication is, if it was, you'd be seeing dogs and cat posters posted up everywhere nonstop. There'd be 100,000 animals in every single city just missing because, oh man, I opened the door for 5 seconds to get my mail and my dog shot out like a cannon into the neighbor's yard, and I just couldn't keep up with him. It doesn't make any sense. That compounded with the fact that I guess I keep looking in the distance at Josh's door, and I'm like, could Puff have just crawled underneath there? Maybe. It depends on how well the flooring was done and if the door is the right size. And also in certain places, the bottom opening of the door has to be a certain height for smoke. All those things. And so maybe Puff could have slipped through. I don't know. I know cats, if their head can fit through something, their body can fit through it. I don't know if lizards can just stretch out flat on the ground and skimmy through somewhere. I don't know. I really don't know. But I don't think it's common for a pet that is adored and taken care of to instinctively think, I need to get out of here. I need to skedaddle. I know some people have those problems, but in my experience, it doesn't happen very rarely at all.
I keep hoping that he'll just pop up one day, I'll be outside having a cigarette and he'll come walking up to me like, hey, I know you. And I filed a report with the police department, and they said, well, we'll get someone out there as soon as we can. That was 3 days ago. And I'm like, okay, they actually do have people that are, part of the non-emergency pet finding squad. I get it. They've got 10 million calls. The one time I needed Metro to come out here and help me look, they're like, oh, well, we're busy. We have all these calls on board.
I'm sorry, Josh, but I don't think searching for random people's lost pets is a priority for like the animal safety group of the government in your city. I don't think that takes precedence. I think they're probably looking out for sick animals or, abusive situations with animals, which is why the trolls kept calling them and having them show up, because they knew this was going to happen at some point. And the city metro is kind of, they're kind of hamstrung, because what can you do if you show up and there's no clear signs of neglect immediately? What can you do about it? And yes, we were right in the long run, but you can't just take them away with no precedence, really. And unfortunately, we are where we are.
I haven't had a girlfriend in practically 6 years. I'm going through a 2-week ban on YouTube. And losing Puff is just the cherry on top of the bullshit cake. It really is. I'm tired of it, Facebook. I'm going to take 2 more of these kratom pills and just kind of sit here and think. That's all I can do. I think 4 kratom pills and 2 CBD pills will definitely knock my ass out.
So Josh's ops, we're going to focus back on the mead, the wine, the CBD, the kratom, and we're going to forget Puff ever existed. Within like a month, I feel like Josh is going to stop talking about Puff. We're not going to hear any updates, and that's going to be that. And, it's a sad way for Puff to go out. You have to feel bad for him, because he never asked for this life. He never could have expected that this was a scenario he was going to end up in. And I just hope that however he went out, it was painless and it was quick and easy. And that's all I gotta say. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let's pour one out over Thanksgiving for Puff. And until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.